Good day, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's another episode of NSF USA TV, and we have a special guest in the house, Mr. Ajibade, also known as Mr. Kinetic, two-time back-to-back defending champions of the NSF USA title. Kinetic, welcome to NSF USA TV.
Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everybody knows by now. Everybody knows who Kinetic is. It's not anything new. I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself real quick for the people that may not have been in the caves, that may not have heard about Kinetic. Who is Kinetic?
That's the loud-mouthed guy that shouts Cullen Stars all the way. Honorable Kinetic, thank you for affording me here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to the likes of Ademamba Guardiola, who would like to be on this seat. I'm very, very loud. I shout Cullen Stars all the time. And I'm also the media executive with regards to NSF USA. But most importantly, I'm the team rep for Cullen Stars, the back-to-back champions, the first person to do that in and out, back-to-back champions, and also the one and only club to have won the title on its first participation. Good mention to Indigo. Good mention to Indigo in this last tournament. They tried, but semi-final is a good mention.
There's a lot to dive into. From my standpoint, I want to give you a lot of kudos for the job you did with the media in terms of the media for this last Chicago tournament. I know it wasn't easy with you being the team rep for Cullen Stars and also the media, the chief media officer for NSF USA. Combining that and still coming out tops was, I got to give you kudos for that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's get straight into business. When the group stages were done, even before the group stages were done, you were one and only talking about how you were going to do back-to-back. Nobody believed you. Nobody gave you a chance because it has never been done in the modern era where you go back to back and win that title. So coming in, what gave you that confidence to think that Cullen Stars were gonna come back to back champs?
So the truth about all of this is you are a very, very good example of how you want people to come into the organization and improve every year. Plus, because I also remember that you are one of those that led us as a team wants to come into NSF USA and be on the national level. We have always done this in Houston. And when we first started in 2022, winning it, I mentioned then that it was a project. Winning it in 2022 was the first of the kind. But before we got into 2022, we had done a lot of homework for like 2 years without attempting to go to national. Nimi, you first told us to come to national in 2021 when you guys, Invisible, were going. I looked at the structure that we had then, and I was like, no, I don't want to go there and fail. Because whenever I want to do something, I want to do it all out. I want to go there with, I tried my best, and my best was not enough. But in 2021, when Invisibles left, Invisibles are like very small. They're like our younger brothers in Houston. And Invisible, our younger brothers, left the shores of Houston and went all out to Atlanta. And we were like, okay, we should have done this. But in 2021, we are not ready. So in 2021, most of our players, though, were in Atlanta. Most of our players were in Atlanta on the backs of Houston Green Eagles. They get to the finals. I was following that competition. I've been following the competition for like 3 years before I got into it, trying to see what's going on and how to actually win this competition. So in 2021, when Invisible left for Atlanta, we were not ready, but let our guys have a taste of it. They went on the backs of Green Eagles, they got to the finals, and I saw what Green Eagles was not doing. And then we came in 2022 and we won't do that. Everything Green Eagles have done to this point is what taught us to want to go there. And so in 2022, when we first attempted it, I was very sure in 2022 that we were winning it. I was very sure. It was our first time, but I was very sure. And then, like I said, in 2022, it gets easier. By the time we were going to Chicago, it was a slam dunk. Because the events that led to that time actually made my 80% thoughts every time. When I prepare, I'm always like 80%. In soccer, you never know. But it was pushed to 90-something% by some incidents. Some incidents happened that were just in our favor. And by the time we were going to Chicago and we got into the plane, I was 100% sure that, save for very, very bad luck, we were going to win this one again.
Oh my God, you were 100% sure. That is, even the great people like Pep Guardiola's are never 100% sure.
No, I'm usually 80% sure when I go to the competitions, but the incidents that happened with regards to Green Eagles pulling out, and then we had people on our own side that got a lot of talents from Green Eagles as well. It pushed the 80% to 90%. I was super sure. 90% is more than the pass mark in soccer. So
well, that was so going in. I understand you were very sure, but going into the group on the first game against Indigo, it made people start thinking, is this your Kinetic mile? Because that game ended in I think a 2-2 draw. And it was like, oh my God, Indigo is a new team that people felt were coming to come fry akara and eat egusi soup. And they came in there and they tied the champions 2-2. And after that game, remember you going to Boston Eagles and you and Coach Ashley, you told him you were going to put him in the casket and nail it for sure. So walk us to the group stage after that first game. What were you thinking? Were you still 100% sure?
So that's why I mentioned Indigo as what he mentions to them when I said first time out and all that. Being a first timer, I've actually did my research on NSFUSA, and usually by the purpose of that podcast that you did, because I listen to your podcast a lot, people should actually start to really pay attention to this podcast because it gives an in-depth analysis of NSFUSA. Those things you don't know about teams, when you watch this podcast, you will know about them. So from the podcast, I think it was the 4th edition, they had mentioned that Indigo in the podcast, they were coming from Indianapolis and they had gotten all the guys, good guys in that region. Yeah. So the first thing that we did wrong in that particular match is that we clearly underestimated Indigo. If you know my team, everybody on my roster that usually should start are household names to Nigerians. We have superstars all over. People that have done the national colors for their different countries, superstars all over. In the match against Indigo, we clearly underestimated them. But we did our research. Our research with the podcast that we read was saying that they have fast wingers and all of that. But we clearly underestimated them. We went into the match with very unknown names. And before we could say Rocky, we were down with goals. And so it was in the second half that we brought up these superstars that we asked that, okay, let's go there and try to rescue a point. We did just that, and Indigo was lucky. They were lucky because I don't know why those goals did not fly in. So they are not a team that should have gotten that kind of results. Yeah. But they did, and so it now left us to Boston, Massachusetts, and the guys from Boston, they're on the wrong end of it because we now know that to win the group, we need to beat Boston and beat them with a good margin. So before the competition, banter, myself and Coach Ashley, we had bantered that, okay, this match would come up and all that. But with the result of Boston, with the result of Indigo on Friday, I'm like, Coach Ashley, you will die on Saturday.
You made sure of that. You put in the
So
back
even while we were like while we were 5 goals up against Coach Ashley, I'm like, leave nothing to chance. Bury him. Leave nothing to chance. Bury him. But
make sure he doesn't resurrect.
yes.
So you got done with the group stage game. You went to the quarterfinals, and you were playing an Invisible Eagles team that was a little bit, we'll say a little bit tired after that group stage. I haven't played, 3 straight tough games. They played against BAFC, played against Schaumburg FC, and they played against Cullen FC, which was Cullen FC, you coming up with their full arsenal of team, and Invisible Eagles, that Houston rivalry. And they came up to that quarterfinals, I would say a little bit depleted. How did you go about that quarterfinal game against Invisible Eagles?
So, like you mentioned, I had dual responsibilities in Chicago 2023. I was the media director. I'm still the media director, and we were going into the quarterfinals with Invincibles. I also have mentioned here that Invisible are like our younger brothers. We know them in and out. That meeting in the quarterfinals was like the 11th meeting between Invincibles and Cullen Stars. Invincibles has not won any one of those matches. The matches have always been bigger. But you see, over the years, the first times we met Invincibles, it was more like a 3-0, slam dunk, 4-0. Like over the years, one of the most improved teams that I have personally seen is Invincibles. I give it to them. Because while I can say dust them in the first half, I can't say that now. I really can't say that now. But that notwithstanding, quarterfinals, the draw against will be picked up Invisibles in the draw. I'm like, okay, let's start thinking about semifinals. Because look, it's at this time and stage in the competition, the name Cullen Stars, Invisibles is not in that bracket. At this time, it's Cullen Stars talking, Green Eagles talking, Chicago Gazelle talking. Invisible is like second tier. So
okay,
we drew Invisibles in the quarterfinals. We are like, okay, who's the possibility of semifinals? We didn't even talk about it, because guess what? There's one very important thing, and this is for everybody that is watching to also try to pay attention to these podcasts. You see, in this podcast, I think it was the second edition, there was a particular team, New York, came into on this podcast and mentioned that they have been into how many finals, that they've been second, and that most of them all that they have been losing by penalties. And then I went and researched. Do you know that 60% of the games in the group stage in NSFUSA have been decided by penalties?
You mean in the quarter, in the
once you get to the quarterfinals, you get to the quarterfinals, if you take all the matches between quarterfinals, semifinals, finals in NSFUSA in the last 10 years, it has been decided 60% by penalties. And in the second podcast, while you were interviewing New York mentioned that they have lost 4 of these penalty shootouts. And I'm like, okay, yeah, do you not see that if you better yourself with penalties, you are there? Guess what? One of the biggest things that we did is to keep kicking penalties. We were kicking penalties like a month or 2 months before the game. We were kicking penalties up every time. We stop the game and you play penalties straight for an hour. Play penalties straight for an hour. And then our goalkeeper got really good in the penalties. Really, really good in the penalties. Guess what? Invisible, with all the preparations that they have done, they had immensely improved. Imagine if Invisible had scored that first goal where they got a penalty. It was 0-0, Invisible got a penalty. If they had scored that first goal, that's what I say, when you are never 100% sure in soccer. So if Invisible had got that goal, that first penalty, it may have been a different story.
It may have been. It may have been a
It may have
different
just
story.
been a different story. But you see, with the homework done, that goalkeeper stays for like an hour, keeping out until he catches 10. The penalties keep coming. He will stay there and until he makes 10 saves, you kick at him until he catches 10, and then he can go home.
Wow. Wow. I hope teams are listening. When we do this podcast, you're listening.
They
The
should be listening. And so Invisible kicked that penalty, hoping to go one up. Boom. The keeper was he was telling him, boom, he went to the sky. He was not even shaking. He's like, penalties, I'll keep you out. He was not shaking.
Yeah. And to buttress your point, in Austin, I remember in the semifinal, you beat Houston Green Eagles in a penalty shootout. You went to the finals, you beat New York in a penalty shootout. And now, Invisible Eagles group stage, in the quarterfinals, you beat them. They missed that penalty. The moment they scored, they missed that penalty. You could see the heads drop, and your players came in and just, with experience, wrapped up. So you went all the way to Chicago in the semifinals. And at that stage, that was going to be, to me, that was the battle of Kinshasa. The Royal Rumble. That Chicago, you were playing against a whole team.
In Chicago 2023, we are prepared for one match. In the entire Chicago 2023. When the draws were made for Chicago 2023, Green Eagles, notable mention, they were absent. New York, notable mention, they were absent. We looked at the lineup, we looked at every other person, and we were like, guys, there's only one match to play in this one. There's no other person in Arcada than Chicago. You are playing only one match. And until you play that match, every time you go against an opposition, they're like, okay, high five and all that, no thorough celebration. The celebration only came after we beat Chicago. Because I don't know how it went so well for us in Chicago. Because it took us 40 seconds to score against Chicago Gazelle. 40 seconds. Boom, the match started, and 40 seconds. Eise took a shot, boom, he hit the bar, came out and landed on the feet of the most experienced player in this competition, George. He's been to this competition like 12 times. Without blinking, he put it back into the net. Eise took a shot with the left, boom, he hit the bar, and then he fell pleasantly with George. George didn't even control the ball. He took it one time, back into the net, 1-0 within 1 minute. I'm like, from there, it will be almost impossible for us to now lose. Because guess what? We've been to the competition twice. We've played a total of, in Austin, we played a total of 3 and
7
6,
games. Seven.
We played 7 games in Austin, and we have played another, we played another
3 before Chicago.
Yeah, we played another 5 in Chicago, and we have conceded only 3 goals now. 3 goals, yeah. Not counting penalties. In open play, we have considered only 3 goals in 10 matches. So where we are in the semifinals and in the first 40 seconds we have scored, it's almost impossible. You can't come back. You can't come back. Now you have to score 2 to get us out. Because if you score 1, which Chicago did,
they came back. Yeah.
Some luck, I don't know why. It was in the last minute. Because it was in the last minute. Like I said, I was the media director. I was covering some other match. I wasn't really watching. And somebody was telling me, aren't you going to watch your game? I'm like, the game is over. And then, it was Coach Ashley. He was like, aren't I going to watch the game? I'm like, the game is over. He said, no. Chicago scored in the last minute. You guys are on penalties. That's what Coach Ashley was telling me. And then I told Coach Ashley, point blank, oh, we're on penalties now? Penalties? Oh, if that is it, if penalties is what is going to decide it, forget it, we won. And he was like, how sure are you? I'm like, with the goalkeeper that I have, it's impossible for you to win. And like, man, you just make him out again. I'm like, no, we have done the homework. This one will keep one out of that 5. And for those guys that play 2 hours playing penalties, none of them will miss. So I'm sure of the players taking it, and I'm sure of the goalkeeper taking one out. So it was just a matter of when Chicago misses.
And they did. And finally, you went into the finals, and coming to the finals, Dallas Green Eagles was not a team anybody fancied to even make that run. Kudos to the new coach, Coach Emeka. He has done a wonderful job after the change they made in a coaching scene. Before Dallas comes, I remember in Atlanta, they were just eating plantain away, do 5-0, 3-0, group stage exit, Texas challenge, nothing to write home about. And suddenly they come to the national, and the group was tough. They had, I think they had LA, they had LA Eagles. They had, who did they have? They had Chicago, and they had one Black Stars, I think. So one of these teams, these other teams, they came out as group winners. They took care of business against Atlanta. They went to Indigo that you play 2-2. They gave Indigo, I think 3 or 4-0.
4-0.
4-0, and they came to the final. But I'll say something, in the finals, you could see the Dallas Green Eagles players, they were overspent, they were tired. They had given everything, and there was nothing left, little left in the tank.
It was a Texas affair in the finals.
In the finals. So what
it was a Texas affair in the finals.
What makes you that?
When you see half of the Dallas Green Eagles player bend double for at least 5 of our players, when it was more like they asked them to greet and walk past them, the way the teams stand and everybody, and then they were supposed to just handshake. And then you see half the team in Green Eagles, they were bending double for half of the team of Cullen Stars. That should tell you something, because most of their star players knew our players, and so their best players are like greeting the MVP. They are bending now and be like, "Oh, Senior Rashid, Senior E, Senior Daddy, Senior this and all that." That tells you something. So for me, again, like I said, in NSFUSA now, when you talk about the big wigs, you talk about Green Eagles, New York, Chicago Gazelle. That's one kid out of the line with. The second level is the Invincibles, the Dallas Green Eagles. So we knew now that in the finals, we had beaten Chicago Gazelle in semifinals. We were going down Ikeda to play Dallas Green Eagles.
With all due respect.
It I can't tell you here that there was anybody in Dallas Green Eagles that was thinking of winning. There was nobody in Dallas Green Eagles that was thinking of winning, but you still have to play the game, right?
But you got to prefix that with all due respect.
See, let me say something. One of the best things that is happening, that is going well for Cullen Stars, is the Texas Challenge that we play just before the games. We play this Texas Challenge, and everybody shows their mights. In the Texas Challenge just before Chicago, Invincibles has blown Dallas Green Eagles out of the water in the semifinals. I watched the games because they were recorded.
Yeah, and then they're 4-1.
Yeah, the Invincibles blew them out. Well, I was surprised that the squad that they brought again, which was the team, they kind of like revamped, because like I said, during the Chicago game, I wasn't watching. I went to watch the Texas Challenge game with the Dallas Green Eagles game with Indigo. Now, Indigo being fast and all that, they knotted them with they were very fast as well. Dallas Green Eagles, very fast. And Indigo takes out their opponents with their fast wingers. You throw the ball long, they control it one bit, boom, it's in the back of the net. That's how they scored us. But the Dallas Green Eagles boys too were very fast, and so they knotted them in that one. They put the ball on the ground, and they did their thing in the semifinals. I saw that, and so by the time I was giving the match reports back, I was there with another person on our technical crew, and then the guy on the technical crew, I mentioned his name, Daddy Bazwai. Daddy Bazwai was more like, okay, if these guys beat me, any of these guys, if these guys beat these guys, they should, all the guys that he puts forward should retire. So by the time we got to the finals, you could see Dallas Green Eagles. They had athleticism. They were trying to pass the ball around and run.
They couldn't get out of their box. They were left to just shoot the ball.
But the thing is, it's like playing chess. You are trying to pass there and take a 1-2, but you are playing against Rashid Olabi. So you pass the ball, you expect to collect it there. He's waiting for you where you will pass it to. So you pass it there and then he just takes it. It's like taking candy from a kid. So, so the match was...
You know the funny thing about that game, you and I were watching it. It was 0-0. I remember you pointing at me and you said, Nini, when Cullen Stars score, you see that number 13, he will be the one to score the winning goal. And less than 5 minutes later, number 13 scores the goal. What gave you that confidence? Like you saw that coming already.
When you watch soccer matches and some individual players play, I just wish that I were like 15, 20 years younger. When you see some guys play, you just wish that you were like 15, 20 years younger and still know what you know so that you can try to do what they do. This guy you were talking about is Bruno. That guy in the entire day has 3 or 4 sentences that he wants to exchange with you. But you see, when that ball bounces, there are some players that when you pass the ball to them, it's the way they control the ball to try to pass it back to you that you will see the experience in them. So on my own team, with regards to the players that we actually talk to, because in this, the only thing that I do is let the players
do the ball,
express themselves.
Yeah.
In my entire team, I only talk to 3 or 4 players. I talk to Daddy Bazwai, Rashid Alabi, Yogu. Every other person wants to talk, they go through those guys and all that. Now, my own thing there, because I have never played professional football, my most important thing when it comes to these games is I try to put a round peg in a round hole. We are talking NSFUSA, where the likes of George Weah has played the game. They have played in this competition. You have had big names in this competition. And so, as much as I watch the Premiership games, I'm just watching. I've never played it. I really don't know what it is that goes through the veins of these guys or be in that situation. But I've been blessed to now have people who have played that game to the highest level, and I know them by name. So what I do is I listen when they talk. So for me, I don't have an idea what it is that needs to be done. But what I know is there are people in my team that has done this before. They do this for a living, and they built houses on soccer. So who am I to now say I have an idea when they are talking? So for me, I just give them the opportunity to express themselves. Now, when that kind of guy tells you, Kinetic, I need this guy on my team. If you get this guy, we will win. If you get this one, nobody can score us. See, that's the only thing that I do. I listen to those guys that I mentioned, and then they point at that guy. So they are pointing at this one, and
they point at the antelope, and you shoot the antelope.
Yeah, they are pointed at that guy and told me, look, this guy is ice cold. They pointed at him and told me he's the guy that rises up in big occasions. He's the only guy that will not break a sweat while you are in the last minute. If you give it to him, he will deliver without thinking of the pressure. So they pointed at him and they told me, look, when you get this guy, places where there are some players where, There are plenty of teams that come to NSFUSA. When they get to that big stage, NSFUSA is a big stage. When they get to that big stage, they can play. But when the ball bounces, because they are on that big stage, they freeze.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Because I remember Invincibles. Invincible in 2022, you were playing against the national team goalkeeper. There was a player that you had, very fine player. I respect that guy all the time. I tell him to this day, when that guy is playing soccer, he is never tired. He will go here, he will mark, he will collect the ball, and he's very versatile. And then he will pass the ball. He got to NSFUSA, he was given a penalty against the national team goalkeeper. He passed the ball back to him. So that's how big NSFUSA is. National team goalkeeper coming there. So, but before the games, that guy that I pointed to you, I had been told that if I get that guy, he will deliver when it matters most because he's ice cold. He's never jittery.
And he did deliver. And you won the title for the second year. So quickly before we wrap up, so next year we're going to Maryland or Dallas. And are you 100% confident again that you're gonna make those titles there 3?
2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, Pep Guardiola said we are winning. He said he's winning the Premier League all over again, and then he got beat the next day by Aston Villa. So I won't fall for that. I won't fall for that. But I will tell you this: the first time was the hardest, and before the first time, I told you in Austin, I said we are winning because we had done the homework. Now, I'm not really. I'm like we are like 7% there, but we have residuals of what we have achieved in Austin and in Chicago, because in Austin, most of the guys said, "Oh, they won't be able to travel well. They can't travel well because it was just in Austin. Because it was just in Austin there. It was in their backyard. When you fly, you get you get very tired, and you can't play as much as you can play in Texas, synthetic ground and all that." So my guys were like, okay. The difference between us and what you think is that we came into this country to play soccer. So put it in your bedroom, beat you there. So they are not really concerned. Now we have the opportunity to either go to Dallas or Maryland. I'm praying personally. I'm praying that we go to Maryland. Because you see, I've noticed that my big boys come to play when you are outside. See, and the good thing about this is Maryland for my big boys is like a second home. Most of these Maryland teams, I've been cutting them, they've been calling them. At least I've flown to Maryland 4 or 5 times this year with my senior players to play some matches. So
Kinetic campaigns are officially over. You can't be campaigning for personal or no personal for Maryland or anything at this point right now. Campaigns are officially over for host cities, but
so to answer your question, whether I'm very sure, I mentioned in 2022 that it is a 3-year project. The first one was very difficult. 2022 was very difficult. It was very difficult. It was relatively easier in Chicago 2023. I will tell you, unless there is a very, very bad luck or ill luck, unless it is we have that super bad luck, unless that. But God on our side, it will be super easy in Maryland.
Man, again, Kinetic, you can be.
It will be super easy in 2024. Sorry.
In 2024, we've done officially.
It will be super easy in 2024 because by the time we get to 2024, the likes of Invisible Eagles will be. Say you are now trying to play against Green Eagles, against Cullen FC, and you have heard that they are back-to-back champions. You will lie down and you roll over. That's how it is. That's how it is with regards to that. So
Invisible Eagles gotta be flattered. You've been calling Invisible Eagles. I've counted over 28 times now. Invisible Eagles. You must be worried about Invisible Eagles for 2024.
actually, no, because not worried. I'm mentioning Invisible Eagles because as a Houston team, the sort of our younger brothers, we want the best for them. In the last 4 years, personally, I think they are the most improved team.
Yeah.
4 years ago, I can parade the second-tier team and beat them. 2 years ago, I think we came from 2 goals down to win in the SLN.
Excellent, yeah. Penalty shootout, yeah.
Yeah, that can happen now. If you lose, if you are down 1-2 Invisible, you get beat. So that's why I'm mentioning Invisible. But you see, again, I've also mentioned people like Chicago Gazelle, mentioned New York, mentioned Green Eagles. Those are the guys that are in the top tier and all that.
Yeah, I'm happy.
All the Maryland teams will be great teams in next year.
Oh, okay.
All the Maryland teams will be great teams next year because they have pedigree as well. But
that's
but
true.
You see, what one thing I would say is, unless we definitely do our homework, and 2024 will be easier for us because at this point, I don't think there's any player that has played for NSFUSA, that has played in NSFUSA, that my team asks that we go poach, that we go drag over to ourselves, that we say no. Now, I don't think so. So it's going to be easier because 2 months to the tournament. I think your best player, Invisible, I think your best player is Fabian. If I walked into his living room and I said, Fabian, I'm giving you the opportunity to play with Cullen Stars and all that, he'd be like, sign me up. He'd be like, sign me up.
Kinetic, it has been fun, speaking with you this past 30, 35, 40 minutes. Which I hope teams are watching and seeing how to do it for the big boys. Teams like Gumtex, the likes of BAFC, Cullen FC, Hamburg All Stars, Boston Eagles, 3 Points FC, the lower third, as you put it, third tier teams. A third tier, the small boys. Please, listen to the champion like Kinetic and what he's been doing, the homework. And we hope to see, better from you guys come next year. So Kinetic, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I can't wait for 2024, be it Dallas, or be it Maryland. I see Kinetic is already popping champagne and he has been endorsing a particular city.
That was just personal. I'm sorry.
Officially from NSFUSA, we're still in the process of trying to find out the best city for 2024. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us and have a very, very good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.